Okay, wonderful. So, hope we are all good. In this session, what we're gonna do, we're gonna talk about this concept of investment, and we're gonna understand what is investment, and everything that we're gonna do are gonna be in a very plain language that we can explain it to the other. You know that in the business, everything should be easy. That because when things are easy, it makes it duplicatable. If it's not easy enough, then we cannot duplicate it. And that's very important. So let's start from the concept of wealth. So what is wealth? What comes to your mind when we talk about wealth? Unmute yourself and talk. Give me your ideas.
All asset you have.
Money.
Income.
Assets, money, income. What else? Let me ask it another way.
Property.
Income of shares.
Shares, properties,
Car.
car. Yeah. What else? Let me ask it.
Everything that we owned on that, every asset, everything, whatever we have, it's not only personal. For example, something we do have as an owner of the company and or in individual. So I think that it's considered as a wealth.
As a wealth. Okay, yeah. So let me ask it in another way. Whatever you said, it's a part of the definition for sure, but it's not all the definition. I'll ask it another way. So who's wealthy? Yeah. Sure.
Someone who can get enough money to take out all its expenses and get something left with them. Some money is left after deducting all the expenses.
So let's say that I'm a homeless person living in Broadway. So I work only 2 hours a week. And with that 2-3 hours a week, I can pay all my expenses. Am I a wealthy person?
No, you should have a house, and something like that also.
Yeah. That's very important that the lifestyle of us will say that how much wealth we're gonna make. But still the question is there, who's wealthy? Basically, if you see someone who lives, in a very, lavish house in, I don't know, West Vancouver, whatever, and so you would say that the guy is wealthy, yeah? Majority of people see the person as a wealthy person. But is that person actually a wealthy one? I don't believe in that one. Why? Because in Canada, you can make a lot of debts. Or when you see a person who is running on a Maybach Mercedes, does that mean that person is a wealthy one? Not necessarily, because that car might be just a lease. We have a security in our office, and the guy after the job, he got on a Mercedes G-Class. And he said that I'm paying $1,500 on the lease of the car. Half of my income goes for the lease of the car. That doesn't mean that the person is wealthy. So whatever you said is a part of wealth, but we should always see the other side. So the first important part of wealth is the asset. If a person doesn't have assets, regardless how much income they have, they're not considered as a wealthy person. Because majority of people who making plus $250,000, in Canada, they do not make assets. They live the style that we call them paycheck to paycheck, PTP. Their lifestyle is expensive that they cannot make assets for themselves. So whatever they have, it goes away. They cannot save anything, they cannot build assets. So what was the definition of the asset? Who remembers from the accounting course? I'm testing my accounting course now. Asset is something that has future benefits. It's the result of a past transaction. It owns and controlled by the entity. So, for example, if you go and rent a yacht and spend $20,000 on a weekend on a yacht, is it an asset for you? Why? Because it doesn't have any future benefits. So then for the assets, we should deduct the debts, all the liabilities. And we get to the scientific definition of wealth, which is called net worth. So net worth is technically whatever we own minus whatever we owe, for that sense. So now to make wealth, we need to do what? We need to do two things at the same time. Increase the assets, decrease the debts. Yeah? So to increase the assets, we need to do what? We need to do investment. Without investment, we cannot increase our assets. But what is investment? That's a more critical question. Unmute yourself, answer my question. What is investment? Yeah?
All the equity and share that has future benefit.
Shares. Yes. Because the future benefit is a part of the asset definition, yeah? What else? Go ahead, Warren.
So investment is putting money into any venture or any asset or anything that you see viable to bear fruit in a given maturity period of time.
So let me ask you a question. If we put money in any asset and we call it investment, so the money that you pay for the finance of your car, is it an investment?
It can be considered an investment.
You consider it as investment.
It can be.
It can be. What kind of investment? You're gonna lose it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It goes both ways because in another way you could pay it off and still keep it as an asset.
Yeah. You know, investment like asset, it has some critical parts in the definition. The first and the most important part of an investment, this definition is should never go to zero. If something can go to zero, it's not an investment. So let's say that you bought cryptos, some crappy coins. I don't want to use the S word for that one. You know, some crappy coins, these cryptos. Do you consider it as an investment? The first question, is it possible for that one to go to zero? Yes. So it's not an investment. It's called a speculation. You know, just you're following a fortune. Maybe it's like, I don't see that much of difference between buying these crappy coins and something like the lottery. So you buy a lottery ticket, is it an investment? The chance of your money to go zero is much, much higher than you make anything out of it. So it's not an investment. It's the speculation, gambling, whatever you want to call it. So anything that can go to zero is not an investment. So let's say that you buy a piece of property. Is it an investment or not? It's an investment.
Yes.
Why? Because it can never go to zero. But you bought a car. Which kind of car is that one? You bought a car. Is it an investment? Can it go to zero? Have you ever tried to sell a car after 15, 20 years of using? You cannot sell it more than more than zero, let's say. And if you keep it more, you have to pay to dump it. So a car cannot be considered as an investment. So a stock, let's say that we have someone who do the stock trading. Is it possible for a stock to go to zero? We're going to talk about it. It might be possible.
Might be.
Yeah, it might be possible. And we're going to talk about it. So then the second rule is that it should grow over time. So the whole purpose of investment was what? To increase our asset. What kind of investment cannot grow over time and increase our asset? It's not an investment. So if you keep cash in your checking account, is it considered an investment? No, because it doesn't grow over time. Yeah, it doesn't grow high. And another thing is called the GIC, Guaranteed Income Certificate, GIC that you can get from bank, or the saving account. Are they growing over time? Yes, they pay us interest. Yeah. So these guys gives us interest. But for the interest, we should understand a very important concept, which is the real interest. Let's say that we live in a country that inflation is 4%, like Canada. Okay? And you save your money somewhere that gives you 2% return. Is your money actually growing?
No,
Why?
because it's losing its value by 2%.
The 2% is the return, is the interest
Yes.
that you get. And it's losing value of 4% because of the inflation. So technically, you're losing here.
2%, yes.
But nominally, we are making money. Yeah. So we should be very cautious about this concept that we have a nominal gain. That is the exact rate that you get. And we have something that is called the real interest, real gain, or actual gain. So it's whatever you make over the inflation. Because if you cannot, let's say that you have $100, after 1 year, if you don't have $104, yeah, with 4% inflation, you have lost. Because if you have $102, now if you backdate that one, you remember the present value formula? So if you backdate that one, then it's going to be something like $99. So it means that you have lost money. So whenever you hear the word interest, the first thing that you need to ask is about what? Is about, is it an actual interest or the nominal interest? That's very important. Are we good so far? Is it clear? Good. So now I want to talk about this concept of interest more. From the concept of interest from our finance course, we remember that we have two different types of interest. Aside from that actual and nominal interest, in calculation of interest, we have two different types of interest. The first one is called simple interest. The second one is called compound interest. That is very important. Whenever you hear that the return of something, you should know that is it a simple interest or a compound interest. That has a very important, and I'll show you that what is the difference between these two. So in the simple interest, you're going to get money only, going to get interest only on the money that you have invested. So let's say that we have $100,000 and our rate of return is 10%. Okay? So after 1 year, how much return we're going to get in as a simple interest? How much? 10% of $100, which is $10.
10.
Plus that $100, we're going to have $110, $110,000. In the second year, how much return we're going to get? When we talk about the simple interest, it means that in the second year, we're going to get again another $10,000 because we're going to get interest only on the original money that we put, on the principal that we put into that one. So after, in the second year, we're going to have $120. In the third year, we're going to have $130. And all the way to, let's say, 20 years, we're going to have how much? $300,000. Yeah? So it's called simple interest because it's simple. It's easy to calculate. But the compound interest is different. It follows an exponential function. It grows in this way, 1 plus I to the power of n. It means that at the end of the year 1, so n is the number of the year, I is the interest. So how much we're going to have? We're going to have $110, the same as simple interest. Why? Because we got interest only on the principal, because there was no other interest. But in the second year, we're going to get paid 10% of what? Of this number. So we're going to get 10% of this one. So we're going to have $121. So the key difference between this in simple and compound interest is a word that is called reinvestment. In some investments, you have the opportunity to reinvest the money in the same investment. But in some, you don't have that. So it's very important to understand that if you can reinvest or not. If you can reinvest and you do reinvest, then you can use the compound interest. But if you cannot and you have to take out the interest, then you cannot use the compound interest. It's going to be calculated on simple interest. Like what? Like the GIC that banks have. In the GIC, they lock the money for 6 months, for a year, for 2 years, up to 5 years. And they give you something like 5%, 6%. But if you want to reinvest the money, you have to start another investment with the new terms. So let's say that I got a GIC last year for 6%, okay? And I put $100,000 in that. At the end of this year, I got $6,000. And I asked them, okay, I want to invest this money again. They shall say that you need to sign a new contract, a new GIC. And since the rate has gone down, now we're going to pay you 3%, 4%, 3.5%. Does that make sense? So you are not able to reinvest with the first term. And again, if this GIC is 3 years, then you have to lock your money for 3 years. Now, if you want to reinvest, your reinvestment will be locked for 3 more years. Because it's renewing. So it's different. So for example, for an investment option like GIC, you cannot reinvest your money. Make sense? So, but simple interest, as much as it is, it doesn't grow very fast because it doesn't have a exponential function from mass-wise. It is tempting. Who can say that why it's tempting? Do you have any idea why it's so tempting and a lot of us use this one? It's very easy. That's the reason. Let me ask you a question. I want you to do the math. You bought a piece of property for $100,000. Okay? After 10 years, you sold it for how much? For $200,000. Give me the annual rate of return for this investment. Do the math. Give me the number. How much is the annual rate of return for this investment?
$10%?
Yes. 10%. How did you calculate it, Tima?
200 minus 100
Yes.
equal 100 and divided to 10 year.
10. It's 10K divided by $100,000 beginning. It's going to be 10%. Yeah? Is it simple interest or compound interest?
Simple?
It's simple interest. Yeah? You have not calculated the gross over the gross, while you have reinvested the money. Because whenever, for example, if in the year one, when the house went up from $100,000 to $120,000, you haven't taken out that $20,000. So that $20,000 was still reinvested in the house. But we calculate, everyone, will calculate it as simple interest. Why? Because simple interest is easy to calculate. If you want to calculate the compound interest, you have to solve a logarithm function, yeah? It's something like that. It's something like that. 1 plus x to the power of 10 equals 2. Then you need to get a logarithm from both sides and then do a lot of stuff. I'm not good at math. So I want to give you a solution to fix this issue and make the calculation for compound interest as easy as it is for the simple interest. Okay? So now, it's a formula that was firstly invented by Albert Einstein. It's called the rule of 72. What's the rule of 72? Rule of 72 says that if you divide 72 by the rate of what? By the rate of compound interest. For example, in this example, it's 10%, yeah? By 10, it's almost 7.2. It gives you the number of years that it will take for the money to double. Does that make sense? So with 10% growth, every 7.2 years, the money is doubled. So you had $100,000. Yeah. After 7 years, it's doubled. So you're gonna have $200,000. After 14 years, we do not take out the money. We're reinvesting the money. So after 14 years, we're gonna have $400,000. Yeah. It's time by 2. It's doubled. After 21 years, we're gonna have $800,000. Again, it's doubled. Now, Sima, with this formula, can you tell me the compound rate of return for the house?
How many years? 10 years. So
Yeah.
100. So the first 7 years, it's 200.
No, we want to calculate the rate. We want to
Oh, the
calculate the
rate.
denominator. So it's like this. 72 divided by x take us to 10 because it took 10 years for the money to get doubled. Yeah. So the rate of return is going to be 7.2%. This is the real rate of return that you got, you know, the compound rate of return. And now, because you have not taken out any money from this house, so it was compounded. But our brain want to go to the shortest way. So we always calculate everything in the simple interest. So whenever in Canada, especially on debts, you heard the interest rate, they are all compound interest. How many of you have mortgage? You have, Simon. Do you know how much? Do you know that the interest rate on the mortgage is compound? And it's compounded twice a year. It's compounded semi-annually. How many of you have credit card? The rate of the credit card, do you know how much is your credit card interest rate? You signed just the paperwork? You didn't check? It should be something between 20% to 30%. And that rate compounded daily. Every day it's compounded. Let's say that, you know, that is 30%, let's say it's 20%. 20 divided by 365, it gives you the daily rate. Then, for example, you are late for 3 days. It's going to be 1 plus 20 divided by to the power of 3. That's why if you see anyone who is in the debt for the credit card, it grows in a way that no one can catch it. So 72 divided by 20, it means how much? It means almost every 3.5 years, the debt is doubled. So in less than 10 years, the money that the person has to pay for $1 of debt is gonna go up to how much? To $8. So that's how fast it's growing. And nothing is more stronger than the compound interest. So are we good so far? Okay, good. So now on the investment, on whatever meets the criteria of an investment. What were the criteria? It should never go to zero. It should grow over time. Now we understood that whatever called the investment, now it should grow, first of all, over the inflation. Inflation, by the way, inflation is a compound rate. So it should first of all grow more than inflation. If it's below the inflation, doesn't matter, compound or simple, you're losing money. Then if it grows over the inflation, then we should find something that grow in compound, not in simple. So the compound growth, we have two options to get compound growth. The first one is called bond. Yeah. So if you buy a bond is like a loan. When you get a loan from the bank, you have to pay interest. When you give loan to the others, you're going to get interest. So when you buy a bond from a corporation, from the government, from anywhere, so you're gonna get interest. And if that corporation grow triple, I was looking at NVIDIA, the corporation, the stock size of the market cap of this corporation has gone from $16 2 years ago to $120, $125 in 3 years. So it's almost times by 10, folded by 10. But if such thing happened, but you own the bond of this corporation, you're going to get just the interest that is stated on your bond. Okay? So usually it's over the inflation and it's compound interest. But the other thing about the bond is that if that corporation go bankrupt, which is very probable for NVIDIA, because the Chinese rival is bidding it with almost 5% of the interest that NVIDIA has. The other Chinese company beat that one. So it's very probable that NVIDIA go bankrupt. If NVIDIA go bankrupt, then you will not lose your money, because a bank that is called the underwriting bank has secured your money. So if you lended you bought $100,000 of NVIDIA bonds, you're gonna get that $100,000. But you may have bought that $100,000 in the market for $120,000, $106,000, $102,000. That difference, you're gonna lose it. But aside from that, you're gonna get the original money back. Is it clear so far? Wonderful. The other option is the stock. First of all, for the stock, because if the company, let's say that NVIDIA, go bankrupt, you're gonna lose your money. You're gonna lose all your money. There is no guarantee, no security in this investment. So for the stock, we should be very careful that if it's an investment or not. Because does it meet the requirement of the investment? Let me give you some examples. Where's the other one? Yeah. Look at these companies. General Motors, or Nortel, or Lehman Brothers. How many of them do you know? Have you ever heard about the GM, the auto company, the auto manufacturing company, or the Nortel? It was a Canadian company. Or the Lehman Brothers. It was the fourth biggest bank of Canada, bank of the US, sorry. You know what they have in common? They all went bankrupt. In 2009, GM went bankrupt, And at that time, Barack Obama, the president of the United States, he took some money out of the public money, out of the budget, and saved the company. And the other company is Nortel. It was in the telecommunication industry, and it went bankrupt in 2009. And the other one is the Lehman Brothers. I don't know if you remember about the 2008, what happened for the mortgages in the United States for subprime mortgages. There was a crisis at that time. This bank was the bank that gave all those subprime mortgages. And they didn't do any underwriting properly. I remember there is a movie. It's very interesting. If you have time, just watch it. It's called The Big Short. It's on Netflix. You can find it. It's about what happened in 2008. And Margot Robbie is one of the actors there. I suggest you to watch that one. It explains everything in a very simple language. And you're going to understand what's happened. But this Lehman Brothers was the bank that went bankrupt at that time. Yeah. So if you give the money in the stock, there is a possibility for it to go bankrupt, to go to zero. So the stock should be traded in something that's called portfolio. Portfolio means a basket, simply. A basket of different stocks, different industry that covers each other's risk. And if one of them go bankrupt, hopefully the others will make up for that one. So you're not going to lose all your money. And this is the idea. But for the stock, something else that you need to know, in a stock investment, we have two different approaches. The first approach is direct investment. Direct investment means, or the call is day trading. You can simply go to Wealthsimple and open an account with the broker. You can start trading stock, buy, sell stock. But for day trading, it's very important that you have the knowledge. And unfortunately, majority of people that I saw that they were day trading, they do the day trading mostly like the gambling. Again, speculating. They didn't have the knowledge. You know, I was talking to one of my clients. He said that I have done a lot of researches, and it's not for a stock. You know, a lot of people even treat with the real estate like gambling. You know, I talked to her, my client, and she said that, you know, I have done a lot of researches and I found that I should buy this, you know, this pre-sale in this condo. I was like, that's great. So you know about the demography of the people in that area, how we consider the immigration policy of the country, have we considered the, you know, inflation, have we considered the rate, the Bank of Canada's policy. I just, what the heck are you talking about? Okay, you said that I have done researches, so you should definitely consider all these items and way more than this. No, I heard that famous realtor bought this one of them, one property, one of these presets, so I bought it on that one. You know, isn't it anything like more than gambling? I see this one as gambling. Yes. You know, it's not about the nature of the investment. It's about how you treat it. Our behavior matters more than the nature of the real estate, nature of the property, nature of the asset. Doesn't matter. You can, you know, you can treat the real estate like what? Like the cryptos. The same behavior, the same result. So that's very important. And there is another option which is called indirect investment. In the concept of indirect investment that I will explain it in the next session, we give the money to someone else, to a middleman who is a trust. I think that in your next course, I will explain, I will have a session for trust and you're going to understand a little bit about the trust. So for now, think the bad person that cannot do anything for his own interest. He does everything for your interest. So you give the money to that person, to that company. It's not a person, it's a corporation, it's a company. And then they invest in the stock. So why we give the money to them? This because they have the knowledge. Or sometimes instead of their knowledge, they follow an index. Have you heard about these index? S&P 500, NASDAQ, all these Dow Jones. Have you heard about them? These are stock indexes. They are technically NASDAQ. These are companies that create their own index. So in their index, they investigate, they put some of the corporations, some of the stocks in that one. For example, S&P 500, Standard and Poor is the company. And they have made that a kind of some like criteria that they rank the corporation S&P 500, S&P 300. It's about the first 300 corporations, first 500 corporations. Or NASDAQ, it's another company that they have made their own index. They have made their own criteria and they've done it. Or let's say that I'm a stock programmer. I made my own algorithm and I call it EFT. Sorry, ETF. So the difference between this idea, which is managed investment, which it's called the active investment, and these two are passive because no one actively buy and sell. They follow an index or an algorithm. So there are differences. I will explain it in the next session. So this is for now. So for the stock, it's very important that at the end of the day, what is called the investment, what meets the definition of investment is not the stock by itself. It's not one stock, it's the portfolio, a basket of stocks. Because one stock can go to zero, it doesn't meet the definition of investment. So that's it. Okay, are we good? Okay, the next thing that we should know about investment is the definition of the risk. Because every investment has a risk. You agree with me? Yeah. Even for bond, still there is a risk. What's the risk for the bond? For the bond, the risk is not for your money to go to zero, definitely, because it's an investment. But the risk is that the interest that you get is below the inflation. So you're losing money. Yeah. So, or it's below the rate of the market. So let's say that you sign the contract for a bond for 5% for next 5 years. So during these next 5 years, if the rate goes up, for example, 10%, 12%, then technically you lost a lot of money. So it's very important to understand the concept because risk has different meaning in different places. Let's say that, Mohsin, I know that you would never go there. I'll ask it from you. So let's say that you go to casino. Okay. So what's the risk there?
I don't know. I've never been there, so I don't know about it.
You haven't watched the James Bond 007?
No.
Oh, Casino Royale. You haven't watched that one.
No.
Okay. You know, what's the risk when you go to the casino? Anyone else? Mohsin has, I accept her excuse.
Maybe they lose money because they play those
Yeah,
gambling.
exactly. You know, gambling, the risk is for you to lose your money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sima, let me ask you this question. If you go to scuba diving, what's the risk? Do you know what's scuba diving?
Yeah.
You will die.
Yeah.
There is a risk you will die.
The risk of losing your life. Yeah. If you argue with your wife, the risk is sleeping in the street. Yeah. So this risk in different places has different meaning. Yeah. So what is the definition, the meaning of risk in the financial industry? Because, for example, if you are a mechanical engineer, you're making, I don't know, compressors. The risk is just for the compressor is to blow up. Okay, that's the risk. You lose your, a lot of people may die. So in the financial industry, the risk has two aspects. The first, we use the risk to get return. You understood that if you put your money in a GIC, in a saving account, you're not taking any risk. So you are not getting any return. Because barely you can make anything over the interest. Yeah. So if you want to make actual return, you need to make risk. So risk and return are correlated. This is the first part. But still, the definition of risk has another part. And the other part is that risk means fluctuation. Because you remember we talked about it, that an investment will never go to zero. So it's not like casino. You're not going to lose your money. It's not like speculations. You're not going to lose your money. And the more risk you take, the more return you get. And that risk is about the fluctuation. It means that it goes up and down, but will never go to zero. It may get close to zero, but will never go to zero. So the risk definition of the risk, for example, we have two investments. Oh, 70. We have two investments. Which one has higher risk? The one with more fluctuation. Yeah. And the risk in finance is measured by a standard deviation, by sigma. If you are obsessed with the numbers, you can find the sigma for anything. There are two different options for the risk. Another one is beta. You can check the definition of beta and a standard deviation. You're gonna learn a lot about the definition of risk in finance. So something that fluctuates more has more risk. Now I want to show you a chart. This chart shows the different parts of the stock market in North America from 1950 to end of 2023. I haven't got the 2024 yet. So first of all, which one do you see that it has higher risk?
The blue one.
Top blue one, yeah? And do you see anything that went to zero? None of them went to zero. And which one has the highest growth? The top blue one, yeah?
Blue one.
The one with
Yeah.
highest risk has the highest return. So if let's say that your grandpa has invested $100 in 1950 in the blue one, which is the US small stock basket. It's a basket of small US shares. So by the end of 2023, you would have $1,058,000. How much is the rate of return? You see here, 13.4%. Annual compound interest. Okay. Now, first of all, this one is the consumer price index or something like the inflation. So you see majority of these investments, they outperformed the inflation. So you have made what? you have made money. You have made actual return. So which one has the lowest risk?
The green one.
The green one is the CPI, is the inflation. It's not an investment. It's a baseline.
So the top one, the top of
The orange one, yeah?
Yeah.
Orange.
Yeah. If your grandpa has invested $100 in that orange one, you would have now $6,833 at the rate of return of how much? 5.9%. Okay, let's say 6%. So you see, the rate is almost doubled, but look at the difference. This is the difference of the exponential or compound growth. That's because of the growth. And the orange one is the 5-year GIC in the Canadian banks. Make sense?
Sorry, what was the reason we don't count the green one?
The green one is inflation. It's the baseline.
Oh,
No, we consider whatever goes below the inflation, the CPI, it's not giving us return. Actually, we're losing in that investment.
so what is that 4.9% showing there?
This is the inflation.
Oh,
No, yeah, the green one is the inflation. Okay? So I want to show you another chart that you understand that even in real estate, we have risk. This shows the condo price in different cities of Canada, in 6 major cities of Canada. Which one has the highest risk?
red one.
Red one. Which city is that one, do you guess? Make a guess. It's Vancouver.
Vancouver.
Yeah, it's Vancouver. And which one has the lowest risk?
Purple.
Yeah, the purple one. The purple one.
Alberta.
And it's Montreal.
Okay.
And the green one is Toronto. So you see, the investment in real estate in Vancouver is a great opportunity. Because, if you have bought a house in Vancouver for $350,000 in 2001, by 2023, you would have almost $1.8 million. It's a great investment. But what if you bought that one in 2017 here and you needed the money in 2 years and you had to sell it here? Now how much you have lost? Almost 30%. You know what will happen? People pick the wrong investment. They buy a piece of property in Vancouver. They want to get money in 2 years. And look at here. If you bought it in 2017, by the end of 2023, you would never get to that money that you've spent. You are still at the same money. So they pick a wrong investment, and then they say that, okay, real estate is not good in Vancouver. No, real estate is a great investment in Vancouver. But if you want to stay for 20 years, if your plan is to cash out in 2 years, in 1 year, you should never go for that level of risk. Let's say that the person has done a good investment option and he bought a piece of property in Montreal. So in that 2 years, he would get how much? 3%, 2%, which is good. At least haven't lost actual money. Still, it's below the inflation. He has lost money. So in general, real estate is mostly appropriate for long-term investment. And in long term, probably you can get good return over and beat the inflation and get good return, decent return for that. but not always. So this idea is that we understood that one. Return comes from what? Comes from our risk. Yeah. The risk comes from what? Time. If you want to stay 20 years, go buy a piece of property in Vancouver. If you want to invest for 2 years, Vancouver is not the place to go. And then time comes from what? Our goals. So if your goal is to make, an instant money, real estate is not a good place at all. Because I will explain it in the next session that real estate is not a liquid investment. You cannot cash it easily. It takes you at least 1-2 months to cash the asset. Okay? So I hope that I didn't overwhelm you. Are you good? Not tired? Good. So let's keep it here and yes.